Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Office Hours. Today is May 13th, 2022. And I want to talk about this idea of empty your cup. Now, I'm decided to do this topic today because yesterday, Rita Fierro, the amazing and unique Rita Fierro, came on the Independent Consulting Chat. Of course, she has a new book out, Digging Up the Seeds of White Supremacy. Really interesting kind of structure. But she talked about how she even created the space to write this book and kind of her story about why she decided to write the book. And I don't know if, how many of you follow Stephanie Evergreen. Of course, she's a data viz guru, but in Stephanie's email, I think it was last week, maybe, she said, you'll never make any money off writing a book, which is just what Susan and I wanted to hear, since Susan and I are wrapping up a book that will be published next year on consulting in communities. But anyway, I digress. So among Rita's nuggets that she shared with this idea about empty your cup. And so you might be asking yourself, because if you're in office hours, you're either an independent consultant or you're interested in being an independent consultant. So why would you want to empty your cup when you're trying to build a business? So let's think about that a little bit. But I want to back up and let's talk about maybe signs about signs that you need to empty your cup, which is probably why you're interested in being an independent consultant in the first place. So you might be experiencing a level of stress, maybe like me in 2020, you were working 10 plus hours a day. Yeah, not fun. And that can cause you, of course, to have lack of sleep. I know for me, certainly I would wake up in the middle of the night and the brain would immediately kick in with all the things I hadn't gotten done that day, or maybe some projects that I wasn't really happy about the way they were going, or whatever it is. Interrupting your sleep. Maybe you're just darn frustrated. Maybe you're frustrated with how projects are going, or you find yourself maybe a little bit more irritable with your loved ones, since you can't grump at your teammates or your clients, or whatever work situation you are in. Maybe you're just generally dissatisfied. You just have this feeling that life's just not what you would like it to be. Maybe you're experiencing a lack of motivation. This certainly happens to me sometimes, where I'm sitting at my computer and I just kind of don't want to move forward. That's usually a sign to me that I need to take a look at what's going on in my life and my work, and why don't I want to work on this project. And probably related to that is, boredom. It's just whatever you're working on just is not a whole lot of fun. You may have some sadness, dare I say, depression, maybe in a little anxiety, even, all signs that you might need to check in with yourself. So the idea is that by emptying your cup, you have the opportunity to fill it with things that nurture you, that feed you, and therefore will feed your business, right? If your cup is overflowing with all this stress and anxiety, projects that don't feed you, an environment that doesn't feed you, then you can't be that change that you really want to be in the world. You can't really have that impact that you really want to have. So what might kind of lead you to this point? Well, it could be difficult clients. We all will have those from time to time. I've been in business for 20 years, so I have the luxury of picking and choosing a little bit. I'm not saying that it'll always be that way, but I do, and I have a pretty good intuition. I'm usually pretty good, but every once in a while, there'll be someone who is maybe very demanding, maybe who pushes the scope of work. You'll know them. Maybe they really kind of are addicted to chaos and conflict, and that's not your really thing. Maybe you're not just on an unhealthy team. That's possible too, and not ever really fun. Brene Brown talks a lot about how we can all work better as a team. Maybe you aren't learning. I don't know about you, but I've been in this business a little while. Even though in my mind I'm 16, I know I'm not, but I still love to learn. I love to learn new things. I love working with people who are younger than me because they always teach me things, and hopefully I teach them some things too. So when I'm not learning, that's something that I try to pay attention to. Maybe it's time to leave when you're not able to contribute. Maybe you bring up your ideas and they aren't being listened to. Maybe you don't feel valued. Anybody who hangs around me or knows me pretty well knows I'm kind of a pretty spiritual person. And if I feel that little internal signal, then I try to kind of be obedient to that voice that I'm hearing, even if I don't know where I'm going. So that certainly is the situation for myself. And then autonomy, I think, truth be told, we are independent consultants for a reason. I think we should just like own that outright and not be embarrassed to say that sometimes we make better independent consultants than we do employees. That's just the truth. And there's probably other things that you can come up with. So it occurred to me as I wrote this that, golly gee, this sounds so privileged and spoiled. And maybe you're kind of thinking that too. I kind of disagree. I think we are, that we have been built this way for a reason, to serve our communities. I'm a community psychologist, so I use that kind of language for very specific reasons, right? I don't think it's a matter of being spoiled or not getting along with people. It's just really wanting to be in a place where we can grow and we can offer that same nurturing and energy and passion to the clients that we work with. But if you're going to be an independent consultant, or you're going to make the decision to empty your cup, so what am I going to take out? What am I going to take out of my cup so that it can be filled with all of the things that I really feel called to do? Then you need to practice what my BFF calls risk mitigation, which basically is like, what are all the things that I need to put into place in order to have this life that I'm envisioning? So I always say I'd like own it straight out. I've been married for a bazillion years to someone who's had a very successful career all on their own. And so it was a lot easier for me to make that decision to go into independent consulting. And I don't even know if I've ever told you that story. We can talk about that another day, but you do need to have some plans in place. So do you have enough finances to get you through for 6 months or a year, or however long you need to have that, like, that financial cushion? Do you have strategies in place for attracting your customers so that you can fill your pipeline? Because you always want to have, work. I always try to have a mix of long-term projects, so projects that are multiple years, to short, sometimes larger projects that are that infusion of cash. But you definitely need to think through the risk mitigation part of the piece. So a couple of questions that maybe you'll want to just drop these down, because this is what I want us to talk about. So I asked you this question, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, I think, when we talked. So how do you feel when you're doing core work in which you excel? How does that make you feel? Does it make you feel energized? Do you get excited? I know I'm always thinking of something new to do. I'm really creative. That's the kind of stuff that gets me jazzed. So when have you been uneasy about your work? So some of you already have your practices. Some of you are thinking about doing a practice. What are some of those uneasy feelings, that stirring that has led you to think about independent consulting in the first place? what's the value of choosing to focus on the projects that energizes you? What are you going to get out of that? And what do you think you'll bring to your clients? Where do you need to decide, or where do you need to decide about your work? That's probably not the greatest sentence, but you know what I mean? Like, where are the pain points? So the whole reason why I'm doing this talk is because I rarely make a decision to leave a contract, but when I do, these are some of the kind of the signs that tell me it's time to move on. And I just made that. I just made that decision actually to leave a very stable contract. It was a very tough decision that I wrestled with for a long time. And maybe we can talk about that too. So my tips: develop a self-reflective practice. Use these kinds of questions when you are feeling those stirrings, or when your mental health or your health is suffering. That you don't, that can't continue, right? As one of my brother-in-laws says, misery is optional. We have a choice. We have autonomy. And we have that gift and the ability to say yes or no to things. So definitely take care of your physical and mental health. There's a pastor, not my pastor, but he talks about identify what breaks your heart, right? So what are the areas that really just, that really break your heart? Those are the things that you really probably will be most successful at. Those are the things that you need to lean into with your practice. And related to that is then identify your ideal clients. So if poverty or food insecurity or substance abuse or mental health or disability, whatever your thing is, identify your people, go find them. We talked about developing a risk mitigation plan. We should not be so privileged to think that we are going to just put ourselves out there in the world and things will just automatically work out. We definitely need to have a business strategy and then decide. I did wrestle with this decision about leaving this contract for a good long time. And I knew sometimes I have to make a decision before the peace comes, but eventually you have to decide. You cannot stay in misery, stress, and anxiety. And I always figured, if it didn't work out, I could always get a real job, right? And then once you make that decision, move forward. So now it's your turn. As always, this is all the ways you can get in touch with me. And we always like to end office hours with, I want to give you the opportunity to share an accomplishment you're proud of or a place that you are stuck. So thank you for joining me today. I'm going to stop the recording so that we can have a discussion.